Hello and welcome back to Stop and Go F1, or should I say Stop and Go F3, because that's what we are here to talk about this morning, the first of our three triple header of Formula 3, Formula 2 and Formula 1. It's going to be a big old month coming up, but we start with Imola, and starting with the sprint race of yesterday. Before we do that though, firstly, like and subscribe. Secondly, huge shout out to the members: Dakota, the Joyce J, Ryan Myers, Cinnamon Strudel, Michael Johnson, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Philip Toganzik, Flandy Skick, No Edam on Sandwiches, and Sarah Jowett. Let's get into this F3 sprint race though, because we have Del Pino on pole. Transit is alongside him, and going into the turn one, Del Pino manages to keep the lead. Transit does try it around the outside of turn one. That was a very popular move throughout both of the sprint and feature race in Formula 3 this weekend. Tramnitz stays behind though until lap 3, when he does get that move and manages to take the lead. Further back on lap 3, Sharp is passing Ugachukwu on, that's for P5. Then we have a very strange incident with, I always pronounce his name wrong, Mari Inganale? Mari Inageli. You know who I mean. Anyway, he is out. The rear wheel had just completely fallen off. It looked like he was a little bit tapped going in, but he went through a gravel trap and just kind of shook up the car completely. The wheel nut came off, and he is out of the race. This was a virtual safety car, which turns into a full course safety car on lap 6. That lasted until lap 9. Tim Tramnitz with a fantastic restart, though. Further back, we get Solov and Boyer going at it. Boyer favoured to the outside, but is forced to the outside, and manages to keep P3 from there. But then a very strange incident where Boyer, after that great defence, he just instantly seems to have an issue, and he just drops down the field dramatically, down to 10th within half a lap. Zagazeta is in the gravel. This brings out the safety car again. That seemed like it was an incident with Voisin. Voisin would get a penalty later on for causing a collision. I'm not actually sure if we actually ever saw a replay of it, but that brings out the safety car. Mary Boyer comes into the pits and retires the car. Just a really, really strange one from Boyer. Instantly from defending that position to just having an incident and is out of the race. So big shame there. Full course safety car ends on lap 12 of 18, and it's another really good restart from Tramnitz to keep the lead. But as we go along, Del Pino is putting more and more pressure on him. This is when the penalty comes in for Voisin, that 10-second penalty. Noel Leon is forced off the track and is pushed down to 10th. That's on lap 14. And Ugu Ugachukwu, who was having a good race up until this point, he was in 5th, but on the penultimate lap goes deep, gets a wheel in the gravel, and falls from 5th to 7th. And as we cross the line, Tim Tramnitz, who is 2nd in the championship, takes the win of the sprint. Del Pino in 2nd, Solov 3rd, Sharp 4th, Blinsky in 5th, Strømsted 6th, Topoin in 7th, Ugachukwu in 8th, Leon in 9th, and Giotzi in P10. Then as we go to the Formula 3 feature race, we have Rafael Camara on pole for the 3rd race in a row. That is a record he has equalled in Formula 3, 3 feature race whole positions in a row, having a fantastic season so far. Of course, he is the World Championship leader alongside that as well. Santiago Ramos is alongside him, and it was a wonderful start for Ramos, who takes the lead on the outside of turn 1. Beautiful move to take the lead there. But 1 lap later, not 1 lap later, 3 laps later, it was on lap 4, Camara takes the lead back, doing basically an identical move. Strømsted is unbelievably quick throughout this entire race, and he moves up as he passes Sharp. I believe that was for P5 at this point. And now it's a really, really clever driving from Ramos at this point, who has some tremendous pace, but for the majority of the race kind of just stayed behind Camara. He knew he was in contention, he is stuck behind him. Of course, he does risk overheating his tyres in the dirty air, but that is not as big effect in Formula 3 as it is in the higher Formula, especially in Formula 1. But yeah, stays behind Ramos for a lot of this race. He just sticks with him, follows him round the track basically, and he just waits for that opportunity, keeps his pace there. So he stays within DRS, just waiting for that moment to come up. Meanwhile, Strømsted continues to have tremendous pace. He passes to Poe for P3. Further back, Blinsky passes Sharp for P5. That's on lap 10. There's a huge battle in the middle of this race, where the mid pack are all so close. There's about 7 cars, all within a car's length of each other. Del Pino taps the back of Solov when Solov's trying to get out of the way of a manoeuvre. Del Pino gets front wing damage from there. I don't think he ever actually goes to have it fixed, but he does fall down the order. Dominguez is out on lap 11, and Leon lost 2 places to both Tramnitz and Giuzzi. The virtual safety car comes out for Dominguez's retirement there, and within this, I think Ramos has had a better VSC restart. We've seen this a lot with the virtual safety car, where, of course, the whole point of it is that the gaps are supposed to be the same at the start and at the end. But that doesn't necessarily work out a lot of the time when people are kind of just judging when to start it again, because Ramos, of course, he was within a second anyway, but off the back of that VSC, he was within a 10th of Kamara in the lead. So Ramos judging the virtual safety car ending really, really well. Kamara defending quite hard now from Ramos, although at this point of the race, it still seems like Ramos is not going for the move. So Kamara very much defending the inside, trying to force Ramos around the outside, but Ramos still at this point very happy to just stay behind him. And he just be like, okay, I'm just going to wait, because he knows if he goes for that move and goes for the fight at this point in the race, it's just going to be the 2 guys just fighting for it, which is going to allow Strømsted at this point, who's in 3rd, to catch up to them. So he just waits and waits and waits. It's really clever driving from Ramos here. At this point, though, at lap 19 or 22, Ramos decides, enough of this, I've done my waiting, and he does go round the outside of a hyper-defensive Rafael Kamara to take the lead. And at this point, Kamara's tyres were just gone. Ramos is able to build a gap here. Meanwhile, Strømsted, who's in 3rd place, has already caught the back of Ramos. I think Kamara... Sorry, yeah, was it Ramos? No, it wasn't. It was Kamara. Yeah, Strømsted caught the back of Kamara. Ramos, I think, saw Strømsted in the mirrors, thought, right, let's go before he catches this battle too. And he just went for it from there. Ramos does make a mistake. Not Ramos, sorry. Kamara makes a mistake. And Strømsted on the back of him here. Strømsted and Kamara, of course, both Trident teammates. They get on the radio and said, don't fight your teammates. Of course, in Formula 2 and Formula 3, team orders aren't as impactful as they are in Formula 1, because even though you are driving for the same team, you're all part of your junior academies, and it's a whole thing, and they don't necessarily have to follow them, and it's not a bigger deal as if you don't follow a team order in F1. But it seems like a mixture of Kamara doesn't fight it, but also I don't think he could have fought it anyway, because Strømsted had such tremendous pace. So Strømsted gets past Kamara relatively easily. At this point, though, Ramos has already built a 2-second lead ahead of the 2 Trident cars, but Strømsted is easily the fastest driver on the track right now, and he just goes for it. And as we go to the final lap, Strømsted is just half a second behind Ramos, and he's closing him in, but it's not enough. And as we cross the line, Ramos takes the win. Strømsted in P2, and as they cross the line, just 2 tenths behind. One more lap, Strømsted would have taken the lead of this race. And if it had been any other track than Imola, maybe he would have taken the lead before that. If there was another overtaking opportunity, maybe he just hadn't timed the pushing of that car to perfection. But either way, a great race from both Ramos and Strømsted. Kamara comes home in 3rd for some good points in this championship hunt for him. Topoen in 4th, Boyer in 5th, Tramnitz in 6th, Giuzzi in 7th, Blinsky in 8th, Solov is 9th, and then Van Hoopen gets the final point in the Formula 3 feature race. You know what, it wasn't like the greatest race ever in terms of all-out excitement, but from like driving IQ and watching a driver really control the race, I thought Ramos was absolutely fantastic this weekend. Really, really good stuff. I haven't written down who my star of Formula 3 is, and I'm just looking back to the sprint race to just check if there was any like standout people who were really good across the weekend. I mean, Powen was good. Powen, am I reading that wrong? Yeah, he was 7th in the sprint and then 4th in the feature. But I think just because of like I said, that racing IQ, we have to give it to Ramos this weekend. Really good stuff. I know it's his second year, but still, I mean, that's showing the difference there between a second-year driver and a rookie, Ramos and Kamara, in this race here. Not taking it away from Kamara, who has been absolutely fantastic all season, and is still the championship leader, of course, going into our remaining 2 races in this triple header, Monaco and Spain. So we'll be back next week to talk all things F3 and Monaco, which is always quite hectic. We'll be back in about an hour's time for all things Imola Formula 2. And of course, the Formula 1 later on this afternoon. So we'll see you then for all of that. Until then, though, have a good one. Goodbye.